So, what's a sexy dragon like you doing in a place like this?
You know I'm a dude, right?
That's a 55 persuasion check. I didn't ask you about that, gorgeous.
Bards? Help?
We're going to talk about breaking D&D with a persuasion check. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Hey, maybe it's your first time hanging out with us in Ted's basement. It's a place where we like to discuss news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
All right, folks, we're talking about persuasion checks and breaking the game. And we're going to tell you how we got that 55 by the end of this video. But, you know, you always see memes and stories about crazy stuff happening because the DM lets the bard roll a persuasion check and bam, we've got half dragons. Or worse.
Or worse, you know, half dragons, half demons, you know, whatever. They had to come from somewhere. And there's some that say those silly bards are the ones that are causing it. You know, but on the other side of the argument, I've seen lots of people who say that there aren't enough mechanics and rules for the social pillar of this game. So we wound up doing some research and we found that that's not the case at all.
So we're going to explore it. We're going to break things down. Some of our top picks for classes, some of our top picks for races, feats, and then we're going to actually break down a combination that could be a little bit on the game-breaking side.
All right, so where do we want to start first?
Well, let's start with D&D races.
So we have 6 choices here that feel like these definitely speak to the social pillar. And, you know, right out of the player's handbook, you know, the first 3 that come to mind for me is you got human, you got half-elf, and you got halfling. They're all very charismatic in some way, shape, or form. Half-elf winds up giving you a +2 to charisma. You got skill versatility that you can play with in a lot of different ways. Halfling, you know, they get a bonus to charisma. They're lucky. You can play in a variety of different ways. And human also falls into that same vein as half-elf with those flexible stat points and that skill. So you really have the ability to play them up however you want.
Not to mention the feat as well, so you could actually lean into it even further if you wanted to. There are plenty of other races that also get bonuses to charisma, but we just picked out a few to highlight. But not only that, they usually have something else going on for them, like the Lightfoot Halfling gets bonus to charisma and dex. But in addition to that, lucky, anytime you screw up the roll and get a 1, well, you get to re-roll it. Like, that's amazing. Granted, it's amazing for any part of the game, but hey, social is part of the game too, so why not?
That is true.
The other 3 we're looking at is Kenku, Changeling, and Warforged. Warforged Envoy specifically. So, you know, Changeling has a ton of benefits. I mean, all of these have a ton of benefits that kind of work with the social aspect of the game. Kenku is the only one that doesn't actually have a bonus to charisma, but they get so many other things. I feel like they can manipulate social situations really easily, sometimes in the scenes, but other times from behind the scenes as well. Changeling's the ability to be anyone combined with, you know, their skills and their stats.
I mean, you know, I hate to cut you off, but I mean, if you get a changeling and a kenku in the party, the changeling can look like the person, and the kenku can literally mimic the other person's voice. So I can pretend to talk, and it'll come from somewhere else, but it's the exact voice. So you might have an easier way of fooling somebody.
Yeah, and then Warforged Envoy are interesting in the sense they're literally not born, but made to do a specific task. And for them, they get extra skills and languages. You know, they can have a built-in tool that they have expertise with, which, you know, if depending on what kind of tool you pick, it could be like an instrument or something. You could then, you know, you're basically a transformer built for partying.
I am party bot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's a ton of other races. They're just ones we don't want to highlight. Next, we're going to go into character classes. But before we go any further, we want to shout out to one of our favorite Kickstarters of all time.
Our own!
Exactly. Out of the Box Encounters for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is now live on Kickstarter. You're able to pledge and get in on Nerdarchy's first ever Kickstarter. It starts off with a base of 30 encounters encounters. You can drop into any game, various levels, various terrains, social pillar, exploration pillar, of course, combat pillar. These were all articles on our site at one time written by Mike Gould, who did a fantastic job. But now we want to put it in a hardback book. We want to put art with it, and we want to put cartography with it as well. But there's more.
We're partnering up with Arknight to do maps and minis that you can be able to add on to this. You can get it at PDF if you solely do digital, or if you want, like myself, like having those hardcover books, on the gaming shelf, you're going to have that option as well. We have partnered with a variety of other people in the industry to write some extra encounters for this. We've got it planned out to go up to 55 encounters if we meet all of our stretch goals. We want you to go check it out. You've supported us for a while. Come check out this Kickstarter. Be as proud as we are to put that book on your gaming shelf.
Link in the description. All right, so now we're going to jump into character classes. So we've got 3 core classes that automatically just lend themselves to the social pillar of the game.
So we have Bard, no-brainer, Rogue, with that expertise and the ability to get into those social aspects. And we've got the Warlock, and some of those Eldritch invocations really lean heavily towards that social pillar.
Right, and 2 of those 3 character classes are very heavily based on charisma anyway. There are 17 subclasses spread out amongst all of the character core classes, except for 3, a whopping 3 of them: Barbarian, no surprise there, Monk, and Ranger.
I'm a little shocked that there's not a social pillar Monk. Maybe that's something that we should work on.
Well, I feel like those 3 lean heavily towards combat and exploration.
I would agree with that. So it's no surprise that there isn't social, but let's face it, how long did it take before Barbarian got magic?
That's true. Now, I will say, because someone else is going to say, eventually monks can speak and understand any language. So if you want to count that, yes, maybe, but that's really high level too.
That is true as well. So, all right, that's a lot to play with. And I know you did your research and went through a lot of really cool abilities. What else do we have on our docket here?
Okay, so there is one thing I would like to point out. There is 4 character classes that really lean heavily towards the social aspect with their subclasses, right? You got the Bard, Fighter, Rogue, and Warlock. Each of them have 3 different subclasses that can go into that social aspect of the game.
And 3 of those 4 are already giving social abilities within their core as well.
Right, so they're going to make fantastic choices. So depending on your race, your character class, and your subclass, you can triple down.
So next up is Feats. What do we have as options here?
So for Feats, we came up with 4 different ones. You could probably stretch it out and go even more depending. And some of them we just consider terrible feats, so we didn't mention things like Skilled. But Actor and Linguist, definitely great if you're leaning towards that social pillar.
We also have Observant and Prodigy. Prodigy being, for those half races, the only way to actually get expertise if you're not a Bard or a Rogue.
Humans can also take Prodigy as well. So that's a pretty good one. All right, now let's do this thing. Let's get into the ultimate persuasion check that someone can possibly get, and how it is possible to get all the way up to a 55. Well, that's exciting, but what is our minimum?
All right, so our minimum is we're talking about a plus 27 to your roll. Really giving you three dice into here with one single set of characters for a plus 27 on 3 dice. So there's a minimum of a 30. In 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, 30 is your impossible. 30 is or nearly impossible. That's your highest in the game. So the biggest thing that you think you could possibly do, you got that covered with just these simple steps.
And also, we're talking about nearly doubling impossible in the game as well. So, yeah, little breaking.
Your range is getting close to that, yeah. But I mean, that's talking about maxing out 3 dice.
We've seen it happen.
We have seen it happen. We've seen a 71 with exploding dice,
On D20s.
Ryan's, triple natural 20. All right, so we're going to start off with Bard, and we're going to grab it for that expertise, and obviously we're going to put it in Persuasion.
All right, next we're going to go in a direction no one probably anticipated. And that is, we're going to go Fighter Samurai. You need to be a 7th level Samurai in order to do this. But when you do it, you get to add your Wisdom modifier to your Persuasion checks.
That's pretty powerful. But, that's not all. I mean, we got to get all of the bonuses here. So next we're going to jump over to Paladin. So Redemption Paladin gets access to Channel Divinity Emissary of Peace, and that is just going to, if you channel your energy, that is going to give you just a straight +5 to your persuasion rolls.
So right now we're adding double our proficiency bonus. We're adding our charisma. We're adding our wisdom.
And we're adding just a straight +5.
So it's not bad, not bad.
Not bad at all.
We're going to have to do some maths real soon and see where that puts us at.
But we still aren't done yet. We still have some areas that we can kind of grab some things here.
So next up, we're going to actually look at Sorcerer Wild Magic, because we want that bend luck ability where we can spend sorcery points, add an extra d4.
So, all right, so now we've actually added a second die, but didn't we mention that there was a third die that we can add to this? We are talking about it as a skill roll, and a simple cantrip of guidance is going to toss another die 4 on top of our wisdom, our charisma, our double proficiency, our +5.
You know, the other thing that is almost as good as adding to your roll, that is taking away from the other person's roll. So we can actually use Lure Bard, Cutting Words, to give a penalty to whoever we're trying to persuade, to lower their insight or whatever counter check they need to make it even harder for them to beat our 30+.
So we've got a lot going on to this. So that is...
There's more, though.
Wait, there's more. What do we have?
If we cast Enhance Ability, Eagle Splendor gives us advantage on that D20 roll.
And that is a bard spell, so we'll have access to it.
So easy peasy. You know, some of you might be saying, well, how would you get guidance? Well, you can get it by taking Magic Initiate Cleric and add it to your list as well.
Or, you know, if you're really desperate and you've got the levels in Bard, you can always do Magic Secrets as well.
That is true. So let's do the math. We can get a +12 from our expertise.
So if we max out our wisdom and we max out our charisma, that's another double 5. So that's 10 right there.
So that's a 22.
It's a 22. We add in 5 from our Channel Divinity. That is the +27 that we talked about. We're rolling with advantage. We're adding 2d4, 1 from guidance, 1 from bend luck.
So,
all the math, that gives us a range of 30 to 55 for persuasion.
Absolutely insane. But we got a question for you. Did we miss anything? What would you do if your player drops a 55 persuasion check in your game? Is anything off limit? As a DM, would you be like, that's ridiculous, I'm not going with it? Or are you the GM that goes, you know what? The dice have said this. They have spoken. You have done nearly the impossible twice over. I'm going to roll with it. The kingdom's now yours. You bed the dragon. You do whatever needs doing, as the case may be. Let us know down in the comments below. But on your way down there, please do us a favor. Check out our Kickstarter. Take a look at Nerdarchy's first project. We're super proud of it. We think you're going to love it. Before we head on out, let me take a moment to invite you to join Nerdarchy, the adventuring party over on Patreon. Ted, what can they expect over there?
We're creating products every month for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons that both players and DMs alike can drop right into their game.
But that's not all. We do monthly giveaways, and our patrons are entered automatically.
We're also doing weekly hangouts with our patrons and more.
So quest on down to the description, join the Nerdarchy adventuring party, and until next time, stay nerdy.